Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome friends once again to the MOOC module of NPTEL on strategic trade and protectionism. We are at the verge of the very last week of our contents of our discussion, where we have been trying to understand the economic integration, how the integrating policies are actually creating trade as well as diverting trade. And these are also the latest trends of strategies by which countries can able to divert the trade of another country. So, forming union, forming groups are some of the strategies made by different countries over the time. Now, if the classic example of formation of union which could able to divert many forms of trade or restrict many forms of trade is none other than the OPEC formation in the early 70s, where the OPEC countries largely actually diverted trade of many participating countries who have been actually used to get their oil prices at a very cheaper cost as per the market prices. Once the OPEC was formed, many organization of petroleum exporting countries decided to restrict their flow with a higher price. So, when they decide a price range to be much higher, which has actually created lots of panic in the production function and thereby caused production to fall at the time. So, therefore, this has restricted hugely. Now, there are similarly famous examples like ASEAN nations, ASEAN Association of Southeast Asian Nations, NAFTA, European Union, even with the Indian continent or Indian country, India, which is attached with some other unions like SAARC countries, G20 nations, BRICS nations. There are various forms of trading cooperation or trading integration, which has resulted some forms of restrictions within the countries and or other than the member countries. So, therefore, the last week is on purely understanding economic integration. Some of the theories on customs union we will also verify in our next lecture, but this lecture on its 36th episode, we are trying to explain some blocks versus blocks. One is blocking to strategize trade, another blocking BLOCK is to restricting trade. And largely we have seen, so far as blocks are concerned, we have seen tariffs, non-tariff measures are actually creating lots of blocks BLOCK to the trade flows. Now, therefore, this is quite important and we must explore in detail. Now, so far as trading blocks are concerned, I mean, look at the way by which blocks are made. Largely, those are though economic weapons, but politically oriented or motivated. So, so basically, these are the steps which undermines the flow of goods. What type of blocks we have seen over the time? They are either in the forms of embargo or boycotts. We have already seen with one diagram earlier, and sanctions or trade war or not trade war. Sanctions like, if we talk about general terms of restriction of some sorts, like ban on textile products, sneakers, balls or soccer balls made with child labor content, these are all technical barriers to trade type of restrictions. And similarly, tariffs, retaliation, further retaliations or import quota are some of the other forms of trade blocks we have already verified in the last week lecture. Last week as well as last week lecture in detail. And so far, if you count the history behind the trading blocks, US boycott, one such famous example here presented before you. US boycott British goods in 1760 to protest Stamp Act. Stamp Act was actually very famous, which are related to boycotting the products of British by the US. Similarly, used by US against many countries over last 50 years like Cuba, Nicaragua, South Africa, North Korea and others. Now, let us understand what are the success and failure related to blocks, BLOCK blocks. One is through size. Large countries impose sanctions on small countries. I think we have already discussed the debates on small versus large countries in this particular regard. Now, small country, while imposing restriction or blocks may not derive the better advantage in terms of trade, and only because of the fact that the small country does not have huge capture on the elasticity of demand and supply of their products and cannot able to tap the market as a whole. Therefore, their attempts to correct the terms of trade and to derive benefits out of the international trade may not be feasible. Now, small country can be heavily trade dependent because of low elasticity patterns. Whereas the reverse is true, the relative cost and related to the cost, low for large country and high on small country. So, large country retains trade with non-sanctioned countries. So, therefore, large country being like in India by its structure, because of huge demand sensitivities of variety of products, different products as well as differentiated products, we have a larger share in the international basket of commodities. Therefore, India used to minimize the relative cost in the international transactions. So far as scope is concerned, sanctions on more goods puts larger cost on small country again. So, we have already discussed this opens up the window for the small country to have an exposure to the larger segment of products. So far as friends and connections are concerned, it is more effective when large country enlists others to cooperate. So, less effective if target maintains trade with others. And regarding timing, the success and failure explanation for trade blocks, it is extreme, certain sanctions more effective, more time allows more time to adjust, because any kind of blocks we create, it hinders the flow because of certain time component on it. And there are lots of politics again, like dictatorship may retain power even when economic costs are very high. So, largely it is political in nature. They want to have their dictatorship by protecting certain products or the flows. So, therefore, this is again restricting huge cost on the international flows of goods. Now, regarding the comparison between BLOCS blocks, basically building groups, and BLOCK blocks basically hindering or restricting the flows through various instruments. What is very important here is to look at trade blocks that remove trade barriers among countries, the member countries particularly. So, therefore, trade blocks encouraging trade blocks actually is responsible for encouraging trade, which may be good, but weigh cost as well as benefits. That basically we will discuss in the next class related to creating trade, basically trade marriage partners. It's say due to trade or due to blocks we create trade, we also divert some of the possible trades. We will discuss in detail of these examples in the next class, that is purely meant for understanding trade creation versus trade diversion arguments. Now, certain policy concerns are there regarding regional trade blocks, RTA, regional trading agreements. As per the norms of WTO, member countries may form regional groups for their better trade flows. So, the policy concerns are like it promote costly trade diversion, like so it actually reduces the costly trade and it diverts those costly trade aspects, and may also reduce the tariffs between the blocks. However, regional cooperation often easier than multilateral because of the fact that there are small groups, and small groups have higher magnitude of similarities and higher overlapping of production function, which could be able to minimize the cost of production better. And the strategizing among the smaller group is much easier than in the larger groups. Now, still a role for multilateral trade policy is in the policy making is very needed, only because of the fact that in the basically this fosters for flow of goods across the boundaries in the globe, and this causes minimization of restriction further across the globe. So, there are certain policy concerns on it. Regarding regional trade bloc success, as an example, European Union NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. So, gains to go to smallest countries, latest gains to go to smallest countries. Basically, they wanted to attach the trade with the smallest countries because they have already harnessed the benefits among those small countries as well. Now, regarding trade bloc mix success, South Africa, blocks BLOCK we are referring to here. South Africa, yes, there are by blocking also there are success stories attached. Many other countries as per the literature suggest no, actually blocks does not give success, rather it creates lots of politics in between the transactions. Now, regarding the types of blocks, we are now discussing BLOCK as blocks types. Lastly, we are going to discuss 5 broad categories of trading blocks or trading groups. First one is called preferential trading agreements, PTA, where it lowers for specific countries. Basically, like as I tell, regional trading agreements RTA can be formed. It actually reduces the tariff among the specific countries. One such example is British Commonwealth. We will discuss this in the next slide in detail. Now, another component or type of trading blocks or free trade area. The area to be defined as, first one is called arrangements, just to arrange certain preferences for trade. Here on the next type we are discussing free trade area. The area has to be freer. Basically, this refers to much lower tariffs among the members, but tariff rates for non-members are not the same. So, like famous example ASEAN Free Trade Agreement, so NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. Those agreement actually define certain areas where among the member countries the rates are much lower, and just the contrast is practiced against the non-member countries. Now, regarding the third type is called customs union. Customs union, where as we know the famous customs restrictions. So, whichever have signed the customs union or part of the customs union actually lower the tariff among the members, and also they are part of common tariff rates for non-members, that is bit different than that of free trade area. It is not completely free in the sense that in the free trade area we say that lower the tariff among the members and not lower or very much higher among the non-member. Now, here it says that and among the non-member you have the leverage of charging different rates to different countries, but here once you are part of the customs union like Benelux, Belgium, Luxembourg and Netherlands, Belgium, Netherlands and Luxembourg, they are part of this customs union. They have been agreed to have much lower among themselves and also charge almost equal rate to other countries. Why other countries? Because other countries are equally affecting the strategies of those member countries. If you have differentiated rates to other non-member countries, probability is also difficult for a union to exist. Now, regarding the fourth component called common market. Now, the word is market here. Market means what? Demand, we refer to the demand and supply, and how demand and supply is actually attached to trade policies. They should have common trade policies. Other are right, I mean so far as customs union, common market are also called customs union. In addition to that, they have certain extra feature called their policies must be also equal. Policy related to trade policies as well as free factor mobility, factors to be mobile freely within the common market. Now, look at the Schengen area, European countries, where European countries between 1958 to 1993 famously referred to as common market, because the market can be accessed anywhere from any country within that regions, and there is no restriction to the mobility of the factors. So, also they have similarities with customs union, that they have a very low tariff rate within their member countries, and also they treat equally, though the rates are higher different, but the rates imposed by the individual member countries to the non-member countries should be equal. All member countries should follow equal rate to all non-member countries. That is the most important features of customs union. In addition to that, you have added common trade policy plus free factor mobility. Last one to be discussed as part of types of trade blocks last one is economic union. This is economic union, that means all kind of economic strategies, economic policies, economic perspectives, economic directions must be equal. European Union from 93 onwards referred to as economic union. Earlier till 93, there are lots of restriction. Till 93 they did not have common economic policies, but now after 93 they also have common economic policies like fiscal policies, measures, monetary policy, fiscal policy are also same. So, this is basically economic same as the 4 point, and in addition to that they have economic policies like common same currency. I think European Union the standard example to that, and they have similar currency as well. So, that is euro. Euro is similar in all the countries. Now, British, as we all know, British is not following the similar currency. They are not part of the economic union. So they are not part of the Brexit is famously known to everyone, and Britain actually removed or decided to remove from the union, to go out of the union. So no longer the British is part of the economic union. Now let us explore bit by bit to understand these preferential trade, I mean these different types of arrangements systematically. Now let us start with preferential trade arrangements. What do we mean by these? Preferential trade arrangements, as we already said, it is among the member countries to have lower rate and lower tariff rate. This provide lower barriers to the to trade among the participating nations than on the trade with non-member nations. And then the loosest form of economic integration we have already discussed here, lower tariff for specific countries are called arrangement. Whereas in free trade area, we have already said that it is lower within the member countries and differentiated rates among non-member countries. Okay. So there are certain arrangements which lowers the rates among those countries, but there is no restrictions whether they go for a FTA, free trade area or not. Now such examples are British Commonwealth Preference Scheme we have already mentioned, which was established in 1932 between UK and the British Empire. And one famous example here is also referred as aspect is referred as MFN principle, most favored nation principle. A trade concession which is granted to any foreign nation must be granted to all foreign nations with MFN status. Once MFN, like India granted MFN status to Pakistan. Now though in the present government very recently, due to certain problems at Balakot strike, as we all know, Indian government decided to actually withdraw the MFN status to Pakistan. Now MFN principle says that if you have granted MFN status to a particular country, that means you have to treat all other foreign nations with MFN status. So if trade concession granted to any foreign nation must be granted to all foreign nations. So this is actually one of the biggest flaw of the MFN, problem of MFN principle. So now India has actually withdrawn this. Now there are basically so far as preferential trade arrangements are concerned, it encourages non-discrimination among the PTAs. And GATT has granted dozens of exceptions for European Union and NAFTA. So therefore there are various grants are made, and those groups are different than any other groups. Now what are the principles of let us understand a bit on MFN, most favored nation status. So what are the principles of multilateral trading systems as is mentioned or embodied in WTO agreements? So trade basically the principle is based on non-discrimination, and that is due to two reasons. One is called most favored nations treatment, and another is national treatment. So far as most favored nation treatment is concerned, this requires every WTO members to treat all its trading partners equally without any prejudice or discrimination. And if a member country grants some special favor to another country in terms of certain concessions or concessions, that has to be extended to all other WTO members. The essence of MFN's principle is basically on equality of treatment. That's one of the essence of MFN, which can be summed up as favor one, favor all. This is the key phrase which is very important while we discuss MFN status. So, Article 1 of GATT which contains the MFN principle which governs trade in goods, trade in services, and Article 4 of the agreement actually contains trade related intellectual property rights discussions. Now, are there any exceptions to the MFN principle? Yes, there are number of exceptions, majorly 3 types. One is formation of common markets or free trade agreements instead of PTA, or regional trading agreements RTA. If these are formed, then then certainly there are number of exceptions one can enjoy while they go for MFN status. Now, similarly, positive differential action such as generalized system of preferences GSP, which is giving special market access to special country or group countries. And third one is discriminatory actions due to unfair trade. If unfair trade is noted, then there will be discriminatory actions, so not necessarily same. So, therefore, it is maybe anti-dumping or countervailing actions may be taken, if then the MFN principle may be violated. Now, what is the national treatment? We have discussed MFN treatment. Now, what is national treatment? National treatment principles lays down that imported products are to be treated no worse the domestic product than that of the local ones once these have been crossed the customs border. So, once any international product clears the customs requirement, those products must have been actually treated like our local ones. So, there should not be any kind of discrimination, that is called national treatment. So, charging custom duty on imports is not a violation of national treatment, because customs clearance where we are supposed to have certain duties, custom duties is not a violation of national treatment. Okay. Now, we have discussed MFN related aspect and let us also talk about some other types of trade blocks. Like first one we have discussed PTA, preferential trading arrangements, and now we are discussing free trade areas. Free trade areas where we said that lowest and equal rates within the member countries and differentiated rates or little high and higher rates to the non-member countries, that is the principle. So, this removes all barriers among trade member countries, but each nation retains its own barriers to trade with non-member countries, and free trade within the area, but separate national. Therefore, this is very important. Within area, this is completely free, okay. And outside the area, I mean, if these are the member countries, any kind of movement is possible, but outside anyone can take differential treatment, not necessarily the treatment are equal. So, therefore, this needs, since all the treatments are different outside the area, so therefore, a customs inspector is required. Customs will check the entries of outsiders. Now, whereas in case of customs union, this is a bit different. Customs union or customs inspector is not required, because we have nullified the customs restrictions. Now, famous example for free trade areas are European Free Trade Association (EFTA), which was formed in 1960 among countries like UK, Austria, Denmark, Norway, Portugal, Sweden and Switzerland. So, EFTA 1960 is famous example of free trade area. North American Free Trade Agreements, NAFTA, we have already discussed. This was formed in 1993. This is where this was formed between Canada, Mexico and US. So, and another example, famous example for this is LAFTA, Latin American basically free trade area. Again, was also formed during the same time, 1960. This has caused and actually caused lots of removal of restrictions, but actually deceased in 1969. Again, ASEAN Association of Southeast Asian Nation also an example of free trade area which was formed in 1976. India has not been a member country yet, have been have been part of number of discussions, but not a full member yet. Regarding customs union, which I said no need of customs inspector, because we already opened off the union to be of completely no restrictive outside the union, remove all barriers within the members and harmonize trade. This is very important, harmonized trade policy. So, therefore, why, if it is harmonized trade policy towards the rest of the world, then why should we need customs inspector? So, free trade within area and common national or harmonized trade policies outside us. Famous example till was the European Union. European Common Market is also part of customs union. Then between West Germany, Belgium, then France, then Netherlands and Luxembourg. Jules Verne 1834 between large number of sovereign German states. European Economic Community till 1992, as I mentioned earlier. Another example, another type is called common market. We have already said not just harmonized trade out to outsiders, they also have free movement of labor and capital among member countries. So, free movement of factors are very important. European Union achieved common market status till 1993. After that, it is a common union right now because of common economic decisions. So, European Economic Community after 1992 as a single market decided. So far as economic union, another type of integration is concerned. So, it removes all kind of barriers within the countries, harmonized trade also to outside countries under WTO. This also have given complete flexibility to have free movement of factors. In association with that, along with that, there are common economic strategies like monetary policy and fiscal policy among the member countries. So, all economic policies are shared by all member countries. So, European Union joined as we told you from 93 onwards as part of economic union. Now, famous example were like Benelux, we discussed Belgium, Netherlands and Luxembourg. Belgium and Luxembourg also in 1921 referred. USA is famous example. Now, it said after 1993 they joined common currency, but somewhere mentioned not yet EU fully. Okay, we need to correct it accordingly. Now, free another one is called free economic zones, areas established to attract foreign investments by allowing raw materials and intermediate products as duty free. So, we have discussed various types so far, including EU as common market and also various different union strategies by which member countries can reduce their restriction and open up further trade. Now, in the next class we will talk about how how customs union are creating trade and diverting trade. I think that's all for today's class, and for a particular class we will expect other details in the next class. With this I should stop here. Thank you.